He disguised himself as a janitor. He never thought he'd fall for his receptionist. And please, before we move on, don't forget to comment where you're watching from and rate this video from 1 to 10. Your support helps us create more great stories for you. Alexander Hawthorne built his global empire, Hawthorne Enterprises, from scratch. From his penthouse office, he watched over a city he'd helped shape. His name was Success, a titan of industry whose face was plastered on every business magazine. But something was rotten inside his own headquarters. He'd heard the whispers, seen the cooked books, and felt a growing chasm between him and the very people who made his company run. The managers he trusted were abusing their power, rotting the empire from the inside out. He knew he couldn't get the real story from his ivory tower. He had to get his hands dirty. So, he swapped his $1,000 suits for a worn, gray janitor's uniform and his designer shoes for scuffed work boots. Billionaire CEO Alexander Hawthorne vanished. In his place was just John, the new night janitor, armed with a mop and a secret mission. He was there to expose his crooked managers and clean house. What he didn't expect was to find the only person of real value, and she was sitting right at the front desk. Those first few nights were a rude awakening. As John, Alexander wasn't just overlooked, he was completely invisible. People talked through him, not to him, treating him like another piece of office furniture. His two senior managers, Mr. Davis and Ms. Croft, were by far the worst. They'd breeze past him without a single glance, leaving messes behind them like it was his sole purpose in life to clean up their trail. "Clean that up, John," Davis would snap, pointing a dismissive finger at a coffee spill without even breaking his stride. They spoke freely in front of him, their conversations dripping with arrogance, confirming Alexander's worst fears about the company's culture. They saw a nobody, and so they showed him exactly who they were. It was during his first week that he met Alyssa Page. She was the receptionist, the first and last face everyone saw. As he emptied her trash can long after everyone had gone home, she didn't just ignore him. She glanced up from her screen, and her tired eyes immediately softened into a warm smile. "Rough night?" she asked, her voice gentle. John was so taken aback by the simple act of being seen that he nearly blew his cover. "Just the usual," he mumbled. "Well, you're doing a great job," she said with genuine warmth. "I'm Alyssa, by the way. I don't think we've been properly introduced." She extended a hand. He stared at it for a beat before taking it, his own hand intentionally calloused for the part, meeting hers. "I'm John," he said. That simple handshake, that single moment of human decency, was the first crack in the armor around his heart. He came looking for corruption, but instead, he found kindness right where he least expected it. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a quiet routine. John always found a reason to be cleaning near the front desk, just as Alyssa was packing up. Their small talk about the weather soon grew into something deeper. He learned she was juggling two jobs, one to put her younger sister through college, and another to cover her mom's medical bills. And she never complained. She talked about her struggles with a quiet determination, like they were just mountains she had to climb. "Some days, it feels like I'm just treading water," she confessed one night, her voice barely a whisper as she organized a stack of bills. "But then I think about my sister getting that degree, and it makes it all worth it. She's going to do amazing things." It was agonizing for John, knowing he could solve all her financial problems with a single phone call. But he couldn't. He just had to listen. So he offered the only thing John could, a sympathetic ear. He started bringing her a hot coffee from the staff machine, knowing she was too careful with her money to ever buy one for herself. He'd listen as she spoke of her dream to one day open a small art center for underprivileged kids. "You're a good person, John," she told him one evening after he'd fixed a wobbly leg on her desk. "You actually listen. Not many people do that anymore." That compliment meant more to him than any award he'd ever won. He was falling for her, and not as Alexander the CEO, but as John the janitor. He saw a strength in her that he never found in boardrooms or power lunches. Her kindness wasn't a transaction. It was just who she was. The closer he got to Alyssa, the more disgusted he became with her managers. He saw their cruelty up close. He watched Miss Croft publicly tear Alyssa down for a mistake that wasn't even her fault, humiliating her in front of a lobby full of visitors. He heard Mr. Davis mock her ambition, sneering to a colleague that people like her should learn to stay in their place. They docked her pay for being 5 minutes late, even though they knew she took 3 buses to get to work. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday night. A major client presentation was the next morning, and the managers had dropped the ball on the prep work. In a panic, they decided to pin the blame on Alyssa, claiming she'd lost the critical files. John was cleaning down the hall when he heard the yelling. He peeked around the corner and saw Davis towering over Alyssa's desk. His face beat red. "This is a multi-million-dollar account, and you lost the files?" he roared. "This is coming out of your paycheck. In fact, just clear out your desk. You're fired." Alyssa just stood there, pale and trembling, tears welling in her eyes. "But I never saw the files," she stammered. "You said you were handling them. Are you calling us liars?" Croft chimed in, her voice pure venom. "Pack your things. Security will see you out." Watching from the shadows, a cold fury settled deep in Alexander's chest. He'd seen enough. These people weren't just corrupt. They were cruel. They were poisoning his company and crushing its best people. He let them walk away, letting them savor their petty little victory. He knew it would be their last. The next morning, an emergency all-hands meeting was called for the executive floors. Davis and Croft strolled in, confident, assuming the meeting was about the client they were about to lose. They took their seats at the main conference table as other employees filed in, murmuring with confusion. Then the doors swung open one last time. In walked John the janitor, still in his gray uniform, pushing his cleaning cart. A confused silence fell over the room. Davis shot to his feet, his face twisted with rage. "What's the meaning of this? Who let him in here? Get out!" John didn't even look at him. He simply pushed his cart to the head of the conference table and turned to face the room. "For the past month," he began, his voice calm but carrying an authority no one had ever heard from him, "I've had a unique opportunity to see how this company really operates. I've seen the people who show up every day with integrity, who treat everyone with respect, no matter their job title." His eyes found Alyssa, who was standing awkwardly against the wall, summoned by an anonymous email. Her face was a mask of utter confusion. "And," he continued, his gaze snapping to Davis and Croft, "I have seen the rot." Their smug expressions began to melt. "I've heard you falsify reports. I've watched you bully your team. And last night, I saw you fire an innocent woman to cover up your own incompetence." Croft let out a sharp, ugly laugh. "And who are you to be making these accusations? The janitor?" "No," John said, pulling a high-level security card from his pocket. "I'm not." He walked to the projector and plugged a small device from his cart into the system. Suddenly, the room was filled with their own voices. Recordings of Davis and Croft, discussing how to cook the books, mocking employees, and plotting to blame Alyssa. The room was dead silent. The color drained from the managers' faces. John's eyes turned to ice. "My name," he said, his voice now booming with power, "is Alexander Hawthorne. I own this company, and as of this moment, Mr. Davis, Ms. Croft, you're both fired. Security will see you out." Gasps filled the room as the two were frozen in their seats, utterly defeated. Alexander then turned to Alyssa. Her hand was clamped over her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Alyssa Page," he said, his voice softening completely. "I came here looking for everything that was wrong with my company, and instead I found you everything that's right. Your kindness, your integrity. That's the real asset here." He paused. "I'm creating a new department focused on community outreach and employee wellness, and I want you to run it. That dream you told me about, the Art Center for Kids, Hawthorne Enterprises is going to fund it, with you in charge." Tears streamed down Alyssa's face again, but this time, they were tears of pure shock and joy. She could only nod, speechless. Later that day, after the dust had settled, Alexander, now back in a suit, found Alyssa standing in her brand new office, looking out over the city. She was still trying to wrap her head around the entire day. He stood in the doorway, a bit hesitant. I know this is a lot. She looked at him, a real smile finally breaking through. Mr. Hawthorne, Alexander. Alex, he said softly. Please, I owe you an apology for the deception, but it was the only way I could get to the truth. And it led me to you. He took her hand. Everything I offered, it's all real. You earned every bit of it. But I have to ask for one more thing, and this has nothing to do with the company. He looked straight into her eyes. Alyssa, would you be willing to have dinner with me? Proper date. No disguises. Just us. A huge, radiant smile broke across her face. I'd love that, Alex. He went undercover to save his company from the rot that had set in. But along the way, he found a light he never knew he was looking for. He learned that the greatest fortune in the world isn't found in a stock portfolio, but in a kind heart that treats a janitor with the same respect as a CEO. And together, they were about to build a new kind of empire. One founded not just on profit, but on kindness, integrity, and a love that started in the most unexpected way.